Okay, so here we are on the 3-5 on the right across of the sleeping phoenix. The 3-5, the line of machismo, the indiscriminate power, display of power. I don't think anything better describes the incredible strength of the third line than this line. In the context of genetic continuity, I think this really gives you an understanding of the incredible potential of the third threes to survive just about everything. Now, many people, when they look at this line through, it's negative. It's very negative description. In this display of power, it's called the Great Malefic. The Exalted is called the Great Malefic. Now, if you're a Saturn fan, I happen to be a fan of Saturn. I like Saturn. I would think of Saturn as a I don't want to piss off Saturn off, but I always think of Saturn as a kind of transsexual. To me, Saturn is a female always trying to look like a male. I don't know why, but I think that's the way the female power sneaks into our lives against Roman doctrine. But anyway, the other side is this a reasoned and calculated display of power. But the thing about machismo that is so fascinating is that this is the brute power of the third line. Now remember, one of the difficulties of the 34 is that the 34, without being guided by awareness, in other words, without the archetype, the 34 and its direct connection to the 20 here is in the lower trigram an enormous difficulty in understanding how much power to use. This is always the dilemma. The dilemma of the 34, the 1, the 2, the 3, is how much power to use. Now, what often happens, it's much harder to use less than more. This is a very, very powerful mechanism. So the tendency is to use more power than is necessary. This is why we get this kind of bully machismo kind of feeling from this gate. But remember that the description of the potential of the gate always has to be seen in the context of the quantum. And certainly in the context of this cross, you're looking at the definition. You can't just look at the gate. And when you're looking only at the definition, what you get to use is the power, is a use of power towards activity. And when there's too much power used, this is one of the tendencies that's inherent in the manifesting generator. In other words, they actually use more energy than is necessary. This is the handicap of not being this or that, or if you're a pure generator or if you're a manager, it's very easy to be able to work from wherever the source is. In other words, the pure generator is modulated by the response mechanism of the sacral. The manifestor has the ability through the thyroid to be able to control the way the manifesting takes place. But the manifesting generator is always in conflict. Do I go yes or do I go uh-huh? It's always in conflict. It always is there in order in the underlying conflict. So one of the things to see about the manifesting generator is that they're actually losing more energy than a pure generator, and they're using too much energy for their activity, which is when I talk about MG skipping things, is that they don't have the energy to go through every one of those steps because they take huge amounts of energy to jump. So if somebody's analyzes and they've just got the 34 there and it happens to be the 3 and it's hanging around, then you can see that this is the potential for them to be carried away with the power when that power is activated by conditioning. But when you see it in the 2034, I really want you to grasp what this actually is pointing to. It's pointing to much energy being used in the now that there's no time for anything else. I'm busy there. I'm sorry, I can't do that. No, I can't meet with you. I'm busy. No, I can't with you. I'm busy. No, I can't talk with you. I'm busy. So this is where the machismo, in terms of the context of the cross of the way it works. So what you have to do from a 3-5 is that they're going to make a mistake anyway. Not only that, it's going to be projected and they're going to make the mistake. And the real difficulty for the manifesting generators, then who makes that mistake, rather than going back to try to figure out what happened, they try to use more energy to compensate for the mistake. And of course, this leads into even deeper problems. So the 3-5 on this cross, the sleeping phoenix, you got to die to wake up. If you're on the cross of the sleeping phoenix, until you come to the point where the personality can even ponder, surrender, there's no possibility that you're going to wake up, that you're going to be able to rise up something different. Remember, this is the cross that carries the great mutation. It's the cross that says things are changing. And in fact, it makes the cross very unstable, any value we give to it. When you have the fifth at the unconscious, the projecting field is very difficult to deal with. When you have a fifth personality, as I do, you recognize early in life that people will think things of you this way or that way that are necessarily aligned to how you see or experience yourself. That there's a projection field at work. And so you learn to compensate, you learn to figure out how to deal with that. But you have at the unconscious level, you don't know what. It's not what you think you are. It's not what you think you work with. It's the way in which your vehicle works. And what happens to many beings with the 5 at the unconscious is that they don't recognize their intense responsibility to those that approach them because they don't know why they're being approached. They don't understand it. What I mean by that is that the moment of the 3-5 says to somebody, I want to live up to your expectation. And when it says that the 3 shows up and problems arise and whatever else, that for them this is a devastating experience because they don't understand understand why there's so much radical reaction. They don't get it. What did you expect? Life doesn't work. Well, you thought that I was going to do what you can't. The third personality looks at that and says, what's going on? Things don't work the way you want them. Relax, calm down, and they go, "Phew, I thought that you could," and on and on and on. So what happens to a 3-5 in this configuration is that nobody expects to get smacked, and all of a sudden they're getting smacked, and it's too much for the situation called for, and there's this visceral reaction to it. And the 3 is says, "Oh, gee, I'm sorry, I stepped on the gas too hard. I didn't realize it happens." In the end, 3-5s on this cross could be real masters of how to use energy. Not only that, discover how to use energy. The whole theme of the 24 is that they, until they have a true focus, they something that's the place to properly channel to their kind of power. And this is all about power. Then we go to the 3-6. My concern on this cross is for the 3-6 is that because it's mutative, because it's aligned to cross that's mutative. It's all six process. I think that it's very, very vulnerable in the early part of their life through visceral reaction, that the misuse of power. 3-6 on the cross can end up as a kid, for example, using too much power in a confrontation with somebody and ending up being severely wounded in the process. In other words, the cause and effect of this kind of power. You put the power out, you get the power back. This is why the use of power has to come with technique, has to come with subtlety, and has to come with experience. So the 3-6 is going to have, particularly in the 3-3 process, enormous problems with using the power correctly. Again, always think about it as knowing how to subtly give gas. They stomp on the gas pedal, and the stomping on the gas pedal, they just blow people away. And then it all comes pouring back at them, and they're not very good at taking it. Because in the first Saturn circle, with the deep pessimism that can be there in the experience, that there are beings that violence is never far away a solution, but it's just nothing but frustration. It's just frustration. Anytime that you're dealing with threes, anytime you're dealing with particularly 3-6 and 6-3s, the quality and the level of intelligence and how to raise means so much. I'm never concerned for the people that know human design about their children. What astonishes me, what is so spooky for me, are the billions of children who are living in the not self of all this, who carry these kinds of configuration. And you know damn well there's a good going to lead. Don't give me a cross of the sleeping phoenix with the sun in the 34 child soldier with an Uzi in their hand when they're 12 years old. I don't want to see that. There's nothing more frightening on the whole planet. This indiscriminate display of power out of deep frustration. The 3-6 in this configuration is going to misuse this power. And not because it's bad or anything, it's just what happens. The lower trigram never understands that there's an upper trigram. It never gets it. It's so close in its own process that it has no idea the consequences of its action. It doesn't realize it. The 34-3 goes whack and doesn't think anything of it and assumes that it all stops the moment that the blow is gone. And it doesn't realize that this is a ripple in the bathtub, like a tsunami from the sea that when it comes out, oh boy, does it build power and come roaring back. And then they're all surprised. They say, no, they've got a sixth color underneath, the personality. Okay, thank you very much.